Hayom Harat Olam. Today the entire earth is born anew. Today we celebrate creation. The stars in their cosmic blanket, the flow of the tides and the depths of unexplored oceans, the bright feathers of the bird and the color-changing octopus. The creation of humans, that astonishingly, the right combination of cells that combine to make you and me and everyone we have ever loved and known, that gift of life bestowed on us freely, that has made us into beings who ourselves can love freely and be generous and create new life. Hayom Harat Olam. We celebrate the mystery and the miracle that is existence. And we stand in awe. We stand in awe of all of it. The world was created and each of us declares, I am worthy of existence here. This is one core idea of Rosh Hashanah, the joy that we are alive, the joy in life itself. It is why it is Yom Harat Olam, the day of birth of all existence and all future potential. On the other side of Rosh Hashanah stands Yom Hadin, the day of judgment, of examination of what is and what has been. Who am I? What have I done with this gift of existence? And we find ourselves, as we did just moments ago, in the stanzas of the 16th century liturgical poem, Unetana Tokef. Today the poem says, the book of life is open and read. And in doing so, the majesty, the awesomeness of our existence is put into humble perspective, and we are humbled. We read, we who are mortal, our origin is dust, and so is our end. We wear out our lives to get our bread like broken vessels, like withered grass, like a flower that must fade, a shadow moving on, a cloud passing by, mere dust on the wind, a dream that flies away. Sure, we exist, but to the author of all life, to the eyes of the universe, we are as momentary as a shadow, as insignificant as a speck of dust. This is but one of the creative frictions of Judaism. The great shofar is sounded, but God is heard in the still small voice. I am created in the image of God, and I am like withered grass, a speck of dust, a broken vessel. I am part of a story that began with Lech Lecha, go forth from your native land, and I am part of a people that spent 2,000 years trying to get home. God is transcendent, unfathomable, invisible, infinite, and one of God's names is Hamakom, our home. One might think that the purpose of two sides is to pick one, for one to win and over time to achieve a happy or simple synthesis. And that's certainly the idea of the Hegelian dialectic, that history unfolds through the tension of a thesis, its opposite, antithesis, and if the right amount of philosophizing is done, there is a synthesis, a reconciliation. And those of us who detest tension breathe a sigh of relief. The fight is over. We know who won. We know the right answer. This idea has shaped much of our secular consciousness, a sense that progress, identity, and meaning arise from conflict, contradiction, and their eventual tidy and satisfactory synthesis. Except Judaism is not so satisfied with tidy endings. We love a mess. Questions in the Talmud, after pages and pages of debate, very frequently go unanswered. By some counts, there are over 300 instances of what is called a teku, a stalemate, an acknowledgement by the rabbis that an agreement just can't be reached. And so the debate, preserved, is left open and hanging. The rabbi's scholar Michael Statlow writes, offer the possibility of seeing truth in a proposition and its opposite, with everything in between. They offer conceptual maps of creative tensions. This is why rabbis themselves have opposed codifications of belief. The rabbinic tradition leaves one uneasy with single, simple answers. Judaism is sustained by tension. We live in the mess. Judaic dialectic is irreconcilable, Rav Joseph Soloveitchik reminds us. Judaism accepted a dialectic consisting only of thesis and antithesis. The third Hegelian stage, that of reconciliation, is missing. The conflict, he writes, is final, almost absolute. It's never either or, it's not even both and. Just two sides or more in conflict. Rabbi Simcha of Bunam famously taught, each person should carry around two pieces of paper, one in each pocket. The first, inscribed with the words, "The entire world was created for my sake." The second, "I am simply dust and ashes." Most often, this teaching is used almost as something of a morality play, as if to say, you, in a moment of acting haughtily, don't forget, you are just dust and ashes. Or, to you, in a moment of unhealthy self-depreciation, don't forget that your life is imbued with cosmic meaning. It's a deep philosophical wisdom that I suspect is true for most, if not all of us. Sometimes we need to remember the paper in one pocket, sometimes the other. Sometimes you need to be humbled, and sometimes you need to take up more space. Both are true. An artist in California sells calligraphied fabric scraps with the two phrases to sew into your coat. A Jewish restaurant near Boston, Massachusetts has a deli counter ticket dispenser, the take the number kind, where you randomly pull out one sentence or the other. I am dust and ashes, the world was created for me. It is a very often quoted teaching, as if the right answer to all our spiritual problems will be found by pulling out the right piece of paper out of the dispenser or out of our pocket. But with all due respect, all the honor to Rabbi Simcha of Bunam, I'd like to suggest a different image. We shouldn't carry around two separate pieces of paper, one in each pocket. What we carry around instead should be a scroll with each sentiment on a side. It isn't sometimes one side, sometimes the other. It is both at the same time, pulling on each other, making them both true, keeping them both in the fight. Nothing is neat, nothing is tidy. And the expectation of tidiness, in fact, creates barriers to the spiritual and religious life. If there was a God, why would this happen? If my actions matter, why doesn't ethical or righteous action protect me? And our texts, while great for debate and discourse, often appear as though they provide little comfort in answers. Rabbi Shai Held teaches this: the quest for a synthesis whereby everything fits together and works is futile at best and probably counterproductive at worst. We spend all our time trying to make the world make sense, trying to make the world work. But the thing that makes us human is that we can't. We cannot tidy all of this up. We are always sitting on the paradox between Hayom Harat Olam and Yom Hadin, between the majesty and the humility of human existence. These paradoxes, irreconcilable tensions, make up so much of Jewish thought. In fact, that word teku actually is an acronym which means Elijah, the prophet, will answer these questions, which is the rabbi's way of saying there are simply questions that are unanswerable by us humans. Why? Too often, things happen in the wrong order. Why the young die before the old. Why children unfairly bear the brunt of older generations' decisions. Why there's beauty and pain and love and loss all at the same time. Why families are most full of love when they are sitting together after a loss. Why the first breath and the last breath so often sound the same. Why, in the battle between kindness and hate, kindness doesn't always win. And in the battle between power, just power, and subjugation, justice doesn't always win. Why there is more than enough food and land and shelter, and still so many go without. I wish I had a reason. So many times, as I am consoling bereaved family members, I wish I had a reason for their pain, some sort of role that it plays in a divine plan that my rabbinic ordination gave me a subscription to read. And when I read their prophets, when I hear their clarion calls, I question why it is that in every generation there are those who cry out injustice and those who never listen. When the bar mitzvah student asks me, says to me, well, there must be a reason why they hate us. I want to know the answer. I want to be able to rationalize the irrational. I want her to know why they hate us and what we can do about it. I want to be able to do something about it, to offer the answer that will solve it. Instead, I teach her the truth of history. And I tell her, I don't know why. I explain to her that it is irrational and that her only option is to love more, be as joyous as possible, and to offer strength in the face of fear. And when I try to make sense of Israel and Gaza, I too yearn for simplicity. I know certainty would be easier. It would be easier for everyone on one side. If one side was right and righteous, it would be cleaner to take a side without any moral ambiguity or complexity. It is easier to justify and easier to ignore any conflicting idea. But in fact, I want it all to make more sense. I so deeply want the world to make sense. And yet, one of the challenges of a religious person is not to make the world work, but to live with and even at times embrace the complexity of the human experience, including sometimes seemingly opposite claims that are made about us and upon us, teaches Held. Religion is not in the business of making our problems go away, he continues. If anything, it is in the business of giving our problems language. It is in the business of expressing and embracing and learning to live with the fullness of the pulls we feel. The two ends of the scroll, of the rope, they pull at us. It is easier to say that we have been all good or all bad, that we were acting in a way that is worthy of our creation all the time, or that we do deserve the label of a passing shadow. But the truth is that we are stuck between the two ends, There is no synthesis. But what there is language. We have the gift of thought and language to help us make our way through the world without requiring us to make anything tidy. There is perhaps no better illustration of this than the book of Psalms. On a good day, your goodness reaches to the levels of the highest mountains, your justice like the great deep. How precious is your kindness, O God. You allow humanity to shelter in the shadow of your wings. Psalm 36. A different day. My God, oh my God, why have you forsaken me? Psalm 22. I am weary with my groaning. Every night I make my bed swim. I dissolve my couch with my tears. Psalm 6. All these words imagined to be written by the same gifted, tormented composer, the baffled King David, himself living a living paradox of irreconcilable polarities. Michael Ignatieff, in his elegant book on consolation, teaches that the writer or writers of the Psalms knew what it was to suffer exile and loss, to fear death and dying. The worst of despair, as they knew all too well, is to feel alone. The consolation the Psalms offer is the certainty that others have felt exactly as we have done, and that we are not alone in our rage and our despair and in our longing for better days. Despair on one side of the scroll, hope on the other, loneliness on one side, comfort on the other, each psalm an honest confrontation with life, and the book of them an honest record of the human condition. They urge us to be truthful. Ignatieff continues, their doubts can free us from spiritual nostalgia, from feeling that there is a world of certainty that we can never recover. I am drawn to the Psalms because of their deep truth-telling, because they do not force a synthesis or reconciliation. Little surprised that their words are the wellspring of so many of our prayers, quoted countless times throughout the Siddur and the Machzor. They are a scroll containing the truth of existence. Our weeping endures, and joy comes in the morning. The tension is one of the enduring powers of Judaism, that it is not made up of certainties, solutions, or simplifications, that there is rarely one single answer to any question, that there are questions that have no answers, that we don't pretend that the world is anything other than what it is in its current state, and that we don't lie to ourselves that we are powerless to change it. And this is the Rosh Hashanah liturgy. It sits in that paradox. There is no quick fix to getting your name in the book of life, and no reason to provide for those whose names did not get written in. The liturgy of Rosh Hashanah tells the heartbreaking truth about our world. It is a microcosm of what Judaism offers, which is language for the whole span of the human condition, what my beloved teacher, Rabbi Danny Zemmel, calls sturdy words. When our own words seem trite or inadequate, we come to stand on these sturdy words, words built out of truth, words that offer resilience as we pass through the entirety of the human experience. The resilience this offers does not come from simple synthesis. Rather, it comes from reconciling ourselves to the idea that some things may never be reconciled. I pray, not for a philosophical reconciliation, but for the words that help me embrace it all. In our moment, when everyone claims certainty, we come to Shul to embrace complexity, and willingly confront uncertainty. We come to Shul. We come here to sit in the discomfort of what is inherently irreconcilable. We come to Shul to reach for each other instead of to reach for an answer. This year, maybe more than ever, we need sturdy words, words that bolster without entrenching, words that disquiet without destroying, words that comfort without placating, words that console through presence, wisdom, and truth. Shana Tova Umituka. May it be a year full of sweetness, a year of sturdy words. Amen.